I have been unable to conceive a child for the past 9 years since I donated a kidney to my husband, Ethan Smith. However, on our 520th wedding anniversary, I was thrilled to discover that I was pregnant. Excitedly, I brought the prenatal checkup results to the office to share the news with Ethan, only to unexpectedly find him with his ex-girlfriend, Sophia Williams. Sophia raised her ring finger, where a diamond ring sparkled, and smiled shyly. Ethan, you bought me a $520,000 ring. Will Leela Johnson find out and demand a divorce out of jealousy? Ethan laughed it off, saying that it was she who chased after him back then, even risking her life to donate a kidney for him. So how could she possibly want to divorce him? I looked down at the ring on my ring finger, a cheap, 9-year-old pull-tab ring worth only $5.2, and felt a pang of irony. This time, I decisively took off the ring and threw the prenatal checkup form into the trash can. After doing this, I had planned to leave quietly, but I was spotted by Ethan's secretary, Daniel Brown. Daniel said, "Mrs. Smith, why didn't you tell me you were coming? I could have gone downstairs to pick you up." Daniel's face betrayed a hint of tension, and his voice involuntarily rose, as if trying to remind or conceal something. I smiled lightly. "I've been to the company so many times. Why would I need you to pick me up? Or is it that Mr. Smith is doing something inside that shouldn't be known to others?" Daniel cleared his throat twice and said, "How could that be, Mrs. Smith? You're joking. Mr. Smith is inside discussing business? I'll go in and see if there's anything else I can do." "Is that okay?" I said, reaching out to open the door. Inside, Ethan and Sophia were sitting across from each other on the sofa, both dressed neatly and looking serious. However, the subtle atmosphere between them betrayed their true state. Upon seeing me, Ethan quietly asked, "Layla, what are you doing here?" Sophia also looked up and smiled. "Layla, it's been a while. Our family is collaborating with Ethan on a project. Would you like to come in and learn more?" Her casual movement caught my eye, revealing several red marks on her neck. Before I could speak, I heard Ethan chuckle softly. "She's just a housewife. How could she possibly compare to you? A career woman. It's only natural that she doesn't understand these things." Sophia covered her mouth and teased, "Ethan, Lila hasn't been exposed to these things, so it's normal that she doesn't know." How can you say that to her? Ethan was clearly dissatisfied with me, and the look of contempt on his face made me feel very uncomfortable. "By the way, what brings you to the company?" I forced a smile and said casually, "Today is our wedding anniversary, and I wanted to invite you out to dinner to celebrate." Ethan thought for a moment before nodding in realization and saying, "I see." Perhaps because I looked a little pale, Ethan showed rare concern and told me to let the driver take me home first, and he would pick me up for dinner after he finished work. I really wanted to leave this place immediately because I didn't know how much longer I could pretend to be happy here. As soon as I heard those words, I turned and walked away. As for going to the company to celebrate our wedding anniversary with him, it was just an excuse I made up on the spot. Ethan and I hadn't celebrated our anniversary in a long time, so even though he hadn't come home, I wasn't surprised. If I'm not mistaken, he's probably with his ideal partner right now. Sophia probably didn't want me to miss it, so she posted a series of photos on social media to provoke me. In the photos, she was wearing a sexy maid outfit, lying on Ethan's bare chest, with a suggestive caption saying it was more fun because the people at home were too boring. My heart had long since gone numb, so even seeing her blatant show-off and provocation didn't faze me. After turning off my phone, I instinctively touched my stomach, where my child was still with me. Although Ethan was the one who made the mistake first, the child is innocent, and this was a child I had worked so hard to conceive. After the divorce, perhaps leaving the child with the father might be a good choice. With that thought in mind, I quietly signed my name on the divorce agreement. The next morning, when I heard Ethan opening the door, I realized I had slept so soundly. Seeing my lack of enthusiasm and not greeting him as usual, Ethan was taken aback. This time, he didn't treat me coldly as usual but patiently explained that he had an unexpected business dinner last night, couldn't refuse, and ended up drinking too much. So he slept at the office to avoid disturbing me. However, the photo of Sophia from last night, along with the lipstick mark and scratch on Ethan's neck, still made me feel terrible inside. I casually said, "Oh, I see." I didn't really feel anything, but Ethan thought I was angry. He placed the food on the table and said in a slightly warning tone, Lila, I brought you breakfast. Come and eat. I looked up at Ethan, glanced at the food on the table, and suddenly laughed. This was typical of him. First, give me a little punishment, then offer a reward. This meant that the matter was settled. It was always like this, but I always went along with him. Even if Ethan gave me something small, I would be happy for days. But the food he brought back this time not only looked unappetizing, but also seemed like leftovers from someone else's meal. Packed up to feed the dog. I wasn't hungry, and this stuff looked too greasy for me to eat. I was telling the truth, since I only have one kidney left. I've been strictly controlling my diet, and Ethan should know that. But Ethan was angered by my cold attitude. He said to me, Lila, don't be so unreasonable. I brought this back for you out of kindness. If you don't want to eat it, don't make up excuses to deceive me. After saying that, he stormed into the bathroom. But the door wasn't closed properly, and I heard him talking to Sophia on the phone. His voice was very gentle, completely different from the tone he used when speaking to me earlier. After I said such harsh words, he must be trying to make me happy by compensating me in some way. Ethan said firmly, don't worry. No matter how pitiful or fake she acts, it won't work. After all these years, I've never seen her have any physical issues. Although our family and the Smith family have known each other for a long time, the Smith family is much better off than ours. Ethan once had a serious illness and could only survive with a kidney transplant, and coincidentally, only I was a match for him. Because the Smith family begged me so much, I eventually agreed. To thank me for my decision, the Smith family arranged for Ethan and me to marry and gave me a portion of their estate. Ethan was very reluctant, but he had no choice. After the transplant, my health deteriorated steadily, and I've recently started experiencing some complications. Over the years, I've been extremely careful with my diet and tried my best to control myself, but in his eyes, these are just excuses to get his attention. Sophia, since you've already lost, why don't you wear that bunny girl outfit for me tonight? I felt my hands grow cold, and my body began to tremble slightly. It turned out he was just betting with Sophia, and my health, in his eyes, was just an excuse for him to flirt with Sophia. I couldn't take it anymore and turned to leave the room. A moment later, Ethan slowly emerged from the bathroom, as if nothing had happened, and held the food to my lips, saying, Lila, try it. How is it? I gently pushed his hand away and coldly replied, I told you I won't eat it. This action made Ethan furious, and he returned to his previous cold and disdainful demeanor. Lila. His tone carried a hint of warning. But before he could say anything else, his phone buzzed. I immediately noticed the prominent text message, a sexy bunny girl is waiting for you in bed. After sending the message, she also attached a photo of herself in a seductive pose. Ethan sighed helplessly, put down his phone, and tried to change the subject. I brought these back for you out of kindness. If you don't want them, that's fine. Seeing his anxious and dismissive expression, my heart ached. When he was with Sophia, he seemed happy, but when he was with me, he would wash his hands immediately after even the slightest touch. Then he picked up his jacket and said casually, the company has been busy lately. You don't have to wait for me tonight. Also, Sophia's birthday party is coming up in a few days. We're all friends. You can come and join the fun too. Hearing this, my first reaction was that I didn't want to go. I don't know your friends. Hearing this, Ethan's expression turned a bit unhappy. Are you throwing another tantrum? You have to go anyway. You just stay at home all day doing nothing. I'll take you out to see the world. I'll pick you up later. Make sure you dress appropriately so I don't feel embarrassed. After we got married, Ethan said he didn't want strangers disturbing our little world, so we didn't hire a nanny. All the household chores are done by me. Every day, I wash his clothes, cook meals, and keep the hundreds of square feet of the house spotless. But in his eyes, these are just things I do because I have nothing better to do. I looked down at my hands, which had become rough from work, and couldn't help but feel a bit amused. Ethan didn't wait for my response, clearly losing patience, and finally turned away in a huff. A few days later, Ethan had Daniel bring over the evening gown. The more I looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. After checking, I realized it was last season's popular socialite-style dress, and when I tried it on, it was a size too big, not my size at all, and the color and style weren't my taste either. I couldn't help but smile. I hadn't wanted to go in the first place, so this was perfect. I just tossed the dress aside. When Ethan rushed home, he saw me lying on the sofa in my pajamas, watching a show without any makeup on. His expression turned serious. Lila, I specially prepared the dress according to your preferences and came home early to pick you up. What are you upset about? I didn't look up and just said softly, the dress is too big. I can't even fit into it. Ethan was surprised by my words. He hadn't expected that to be the reason. After a moment, his tone softened and he said to me, Lila, I didn't notice. But you should have told me sooner. There's not enough time left. It doesn't matter what you wear. I remember you have a new dress in your closet that looks pretty nice. Just wear that one. But I stayed lying on the couch and he finally couldn't stand it anymore. He came over, pushed me onto the couch, took off my pajamas, and helped me put on the dress. After zipping it up, he sighed as if he'd finished something important, but I saw the dissatisfaction in his eyes. Then, after I finished getting ready and made sure I wouldn't embarrass him, he finally pulled me into the car. As soon as she saw me, Sophia smiled and walked over, giving me a few glances up and down before complimenting me, Leila. You look so beautiful today, you used to never bother to dress up. I thought you were Ethan's nanny a few times. Who would have thought? Someone suddenly shouted from the crowd. Isn't she just the nanny? Everyone knows that Mr. Smith and you used to be a loving couple. If it weren't for Leila donating a kidney, Mrs. Smith wouldn't have gotten him. More mocking laughter followed, and I had long grown accustomed to their disdainful glances and sarcastic remarks. In the past, I would have endured it for Ethan's sake, but this time I couldn't take it anymore. Can't you just stop, even if I'm not suitable to be Mrs. Smith? It's none of your business to judge. Ethan immediately looked at me disapprovingly and warned, Lila, today is Sophia's birthday party. Watch your words. The atmosphere grew tense, but no one dared to speak. Sophia raised 2 glasses of wine, smiled, and handed one to me. Lila, today is my birthday. We're all friends. Don't be angry. I'll toast you, as an apology on their behalf. I pushed the glass away coldly and said, sorry. I don't drink much, seeing that I wasn't giving Sophia face. Ethan clenched the glass tightly, his fingers turning slightly white. He suppressed his anger and said, Lila, I remember you used to be able to drink 1,000 cups. You say you don't drink, are you kidding me? I'm telling the truth. Since I donated my kidney, I can't drink anymore, and now that I'm pregnant, I definitely can't drink. Layla, don't be such a downer. Ethan walked straight toward me, still holding the wine bottle. I panicked and stepped back. I've already said I don't drink. I'm pregnant, I really can't. As soon as I said that, the room fell silent. Ethan chuckled softly, thinking, that's impossible. Layla, we haven't lived together for a long time. If you want to find an excuse to avoid drinking, you should come up with a better one. I'm telling the truth. Maybe it was because he had argued with Sophia that day. And after getting drunk, he forced me to have sex with him. The next morning, he didn't mention it at all. Actually, he doesn't remember any of it. The next moment, Sophia stood behind me, holding onto my back tightly. Before I could react, Ethan and she worked together to pour the wine into my mouth. I felt a burning sensation in my stomach, followed by intense abdominal pain. I couldn't help but clutching my stomach and collapsing to the ground. My stomach hurt so much. Everyone around me was startled and stepped back. And Ethan froze in place. At that moment, Sophia suddenly spoke calmly. I drank the wine. It's fine. Lila, if you didn't want a drink, just tell me. There's no need to do this at my birthday party. Ethan seemed to have figured something out and walked over, kicking my lower abdomen a few times with his foot. He said, Lila, since you don't want to be here, I'll have the driver take you home first. Don't make a scene here. Ethan pulled me up from the ground, and the items in my bag fell out. As soon as I stood up, I felt a rush of heat. She was injured, and blood was flowing out. The people at the scene were screaming, and someone noticed that something that looked like a divorce agreement had fallen out of her bag. In the last moment before I fainted, I saw Ethan's shocked and surprised expression. When I woke up, I found myself lying in a hospital, surrounded by the smell of disinfectant. The ward was empty, and I heard voices outside the door. Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith's pregnancy was an accident. Her health has always been poor, and after this miscarriage, it may be difficult for her to conceive again. Hearing this news, I felt a deep sorrow and a sharp pain in my heart. My child hadn't even had the chance to see the world before leaving it. I also felt a mix of resentment toward Ethan and Sophia. I gently placed my hand on my flat abdomen, and tears streamed down my face. After a while, Ethan walked into the ward from outside. He gently held my hand and said softly, Lila, I remember now. It was you that night. Why didn't you tell me? I closed my eyes and didn't speak. Ethan didn't get angry. He comforted me, saying, Lila, we'll have children in the future. We're still young. I opened my eyes, pushed his hand away, and interrupted him directly. You saw the divorce agreement. Let's just get a divorce. Ethan seemed surprised, as if he hadn't expected me to say that. Lila, no one expected this to happen to the child. It was truly an accident. If it's gone, it's gone. At most, I'll spend more time coming home to see you, and if you had told everyone about this sooner, things wouldn't have escalated to this point. It's gone, so it's gone. How could he say that? That was his child too. It was an innocent life. His lack of remorse was unbearable. And I couldn't help but shout, Ethan, do you really not understand what people are saying? I said. We're getting divorced because you're not suitable. You're not suitable to be my husband, and you're even less suitable to be my child's father. I really misjudged you before. Leave right now? I really don't want to see you anymore. I suddenly lost my temper, startling Ethan. His face showed a hint of confusion, as he hadn't expected me to react so strongly. Lila, enough. I know you're just saying these things out of anger. Calm down first. I'll come find you tomorrow. I gave a faint smile, closed my eyes, and refused to speak to him anymore. After hearing the door close, I took out my phone and called my parents, asking them to help me find a reliable divorce lawyer. When I donated my kidney, my parents actually opposed it. But I insisted, and they were angry with me for several days. Now that they heard about my situation, they were more concerned about me. Lila, if you need anything, just let me and your father know, and we will support you fully. But it's okay, Mom and Dad. I want to handle this on my own. Over the next few days, Ethan came every day with soup to visit me. But before he could even step inside, I told him to leave, threw away everything he brought, or just shouted him out. No matter how angry I got, he still showed up in the ward the next day, looking genuinely regretful. This time, Ethan's patience finally ran out. He left with a grim expression, slamming the door behind him. Layla, I'll come pick you up tomorrow when you're discharged. Let's just forget about this. Daniel saw his boss leave angrily and couldn't help but speak up for him. Madam, Mr. Smith truly knows he was wrong. He's been busy at work these past few days. But he still took the time to cook soup for you after work and bring it to the hospital. I scoffed. If Sophia hadn't posted their photos on social media these past few days, I might have actually believed he felt a little guilty. Besides, Ethan doesn't know how to stew soup. All the household chores at home are done by me. He's never been good at such things since he was a child. Don't speak up for him. Otherwise, I'll kick you out too. Daniel saw I was angry and shut up, then walked out of the ward. The next morning, I left the signed divorce agreement in the ward and left the hospital. I originally planned to go back to the Smith family's house to pack my things. But after thinking about it, I gave up on that idea. When Ethan and I first moved into this house, I was very happy and bought a lot of things to decorate our home. Whether it was furniture or daily necessities, I chose matching couples' items. However, although this house was given to us by the Smith family as our wedding home, there weren't many things inside that belonged to me. Ethan didn't give me much either. Most of it was his. After thinking it over, I decided to take a taxi straight to the airport. Ethan rushed to the hospital, and seeing no one in the ward, took out his phone and said angrily, Lila, where did you go again? Weren't you supposed to come to the hospital to pick me up? I didn't feel like saying much to him, so I just told him, I've already left the divorce agreement on the table. If you don't want everyone to find out about you and Sophia, you should sign it sooner rather than later. Ethan seemed taken aback by my firmness, and the air grew silent. Even our breathing sounded heavy. Lila, if you're done causing trouble, just come back. I'll pretend I didn't hear any of that. Hearing his words, I found it pretty funny. At this point, he was still concerned about saving face. How amusing, I smiled. Maybe my laughter annoyed him because he said, Lila, but I didn't want to listen to his nonsense anymore, so I hung up the phone. In the days that followed, Ethan didn't bother me, clearly because I had made him angry. However, I was living quite comfortably in my own home. My life no longer revolved around Ethan, and I didn't have to be his nanny or follow his orders anymore. But Ethan seemed a bit out of sorts without me as his nanny. Early in the morning, I was woken up by his phone call. He seemed to have just gotten out of bed, his voice still hoarse. He asked me, Lila, where did I put my dark green tie? I have a dinner party to attend tonight. You can't find it, so you're bothering me again? I suppressed my irritation at being woken up and replied coldly, It's in the drawer at the bottom of the wardrobe. Go find it yourself. After saying that, I couldn't help but vent my anger. Ethan, I'm not your nanny, and we're already divorced. You have no right to tell me what to do. This is the last time I'll help you. From now on, find someone else." He was startled by my impatient tone, apparently not expecting such a strong reaction from me. After a few seconds of silence, he said, "I understand. I was disturbing you." After hanging up the phone, Ethan looked at the neatly folded and categorized ties in the drawer, standing there blankly, as if recalling something, but he didn't have time to think much about it and hurried out the door to go to work. That evening, I received another call from Ethan. I was about to hang up, but he called again a moment later. I couldn't help myself and decided to answer the phone and give him a piece of my mind. But when I did, I heard Daniel's anxious voice. "Where did you put the stomach medicine, ma'am?" Mr. Smith drank a lot of alcohol at a business dinner and is now feeling very uncomfortable. From the phone, Ethan's voice sounded very distressed, and he kept calling out someone else's name. "Where's Sophia? Why doesn't she go take care of Ethan?" Daniel said anxiously, "Sophia seems to be busy with something, and I can't get through to her. Madam, could you just tell me where the stomach medicine is?" I frowned and said, "There's a medicine cabinet in the living room with various medications. I labeled them all earlier. Take a look and see which one to give him. I have something else to do. I'll hang up now." Seeing that Daniel hadn't reacted yet, I quickly hung up and blocked his number. After taking the medicine, Ethan asked Daniel to leave. Now, Ethan was alone at home. Ethan often drinks alcohol due to social engagements and has irregular meal times, which led to his stomach issues. When I was at home, I would remind him to eat on time every day and even bring him meals, as well as cook some soup to help his stomach. After my efforts, his stomach finally improved. However, when I wasn't home, his stomach issues flared up again. At that moment, he was sitting on the ground, seeming a bit drunk, and began reminiscing about the past. He suddenly remembered that every time he came home late from work or socializing, no matter how late it was, I would be waiting for him at home. Then kindly prepare a glass of milk for him before bed or a cup of honey water to help him sober up. I kept the house very tidy, but after I left for just a few days, it became a mess. Sophia never seemed to care about me like that. She would only scold him like a spoiled princess. Facing the empty house, Ethan thought of me for the first time since I had left. Recalling those happy times, since I had left, he felt like he hadn't had a good night's sleep in ages. He closed his eyes and thought for a moment, then finally made up his mind and called Daniel to book the earliest flight ticket. When Ethan appeared in front of me, I was a bit surprised. At that moment, I was downstairs in the neighborhood, chatting with an old classmate I hadn't seen in ages. Ethan looked disheveled, with stubble on his face and bloodshot eyes, looking very tired. I frowned unconsciously, thinking, "What are you here for? Are you here to deliver the divorce papers?" But Ethan didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "I came to see if you've calmed down and to take you home. Lila, you've been gone for so long, and I haven't slept well for days." But he seemed to have forgotten that I had been waiting for him at home every night, tossing and turning because he didn't come back. Once I joked about it with him, and he just smiled lightly, saying, "If you can't sleep, take sleeping pills. What's the use? I'm not a doctor, am I so today?" I threw his words back at him and deliberately provoked him. "If you still can't sleep, I can recommend some reliable doctors for you." Ethan didn't expect me to be so direct. He forced a smile and said, "Lila, stop joking around. Your things are still at home. How could you possibly divorce me?" I thought about it and suddenly realized I hadn't called anyone to handle those things yet. "I don't need them anymore. They're not important, just throw them away." Ethan's smile froze and his expression turned somber. "Lila, after 9 years of marriage, how can you be so heartless? Does that mean you've been with another man these past few days? No wonder you two were chatting so happily earlier. I must have interrupted your fun." As he spoke, he shot a cold glance at the male classmate sitting next to me. I couldn't take it anymore and walked up to him and slapped him. "Ethan, what are you talking about? Things have come to this, and you still want to attack me? Do you think everyone is like you? Enjoying doing some shady things behind people's backs?" Seeing my angry expression, Ethan quickly said, "Lila, that's not what I meant," I interrupted him, not wanting to hear what he had to say. "Next time, either bring the divorce papers to me, or we'll see each other in court." But Ethan seemed not to hear me. Not only did he stay at a hotel near my house, but he also frequently visited my parents at home. Ethan even knelt on the ground, refusing to leave no matter what I said. However, my parents never let him inside the house. Not only that, but they also told the security guard not to let any strangers in from now on. This went on every day. Ethan would show up near my house but never go to the office. Even Daniel's calls were redirected to me. "Madam, please ask Mr. Smith to come back. The board is starting to get restless, and I can't handle this anymore." I refused outright. "Daniel, you should just contact Ethan directly." However, things took a turn when Ethan came to see me that day. His expression was a mix of anticipation and flattery. He said, "Lila, didn't you always like that ring designed by the foreign designer? I specially asked her to design a new ring for you. Come take a look and see if you like it." It turned out he had always known I liked it, but had never bothered to get one for me before. I looked down and said softly, "I don't really like wearing rings. They're too much trouble. Just give it to Sophia. She might like it. Besides, don't come looking for me anymore. No matter what you do, I won't forgive you." Ethan's face immediately turned stiff. Seeing my cold expression, he tried to say something, but the phone rang, interrupting him. Daniel said urgently, "Mr. Smith, come back quickly. There's been an incident at the company. The project you're working on with Sophia." Hearing this, Ethan's expression changed instantly. He hurriedly left a message, "Lila, I'll come back to see you after I handle the company matters," and left. This was the first time I had ever seen such a serious expression on his face. Watching his hurried departure, I didn't take his words to heart and didn't care about him as I had before. Later, I found out that the project he was collaborating on with Sophia had encountered problems. Sophia withdrew her investment in time and wasn't affected much. Actually, she hadn't signed a formal contract. She had just convinced Ethan to invest the funds unilaterally. However, Ethan's situation was much worse. The failed investment might lead to the company's bankruptcy. After landing, Ethan didn't return to the company immediately, but went to confront Sophia. The two argued fiercely in the office. Ethan's face was dark, and he clenched his teeth, saying, "Sophia, why did you do this?" Sophia looked innocent and said, "I only mentioned wanting to collaborate with you. I never said I would invest. And I called you later, but you were busy trying to get your ex-wife to forgive you. Now that we've lost money, how can you blame me?" Ethan couldn't hold back anymore, walked straight up to Sophia and slapped her. The two immediately started fighting. Ultimately, there was a significant difference in strength between the two, and Sophia quickly found herself at a disadvantage, her body covered in bruises. Ethan kicked Sophia on the ground several times, shouting angrily, "Don't get too cocky. If something happens to me, you won't get away either. And do you really think this one incident can bring down my company? Don't be so naive." At that moment, Sophia was too busy clutching her stomach in pain to hear anything else. Ethan realized the situation was dire and quickly left Sophia behind and fled. Upon arriving at the hospital, it was discovered that Ethan's actions had been too brutal, causing internal injuries to Sophia. The Williams family, upon hearing the news, were furious and decided to seek justice for Sophia. However, the Smith family, after learning of Sophia's actions, also demanded an explanation from the Williams family. The conflict between the Smith family and the Williams family grew increasingly severe. Sophia's betrayal, the company's impending bankruptcy, and his family's criticism and disappointment weighed heavily on Ethan. Therefore, he chose to escape once again. When Ethan reappeared before me, he reeked of alcohol and was holding a bottle of liquor. Seeing him, I was startled. After not seeing him for a few days, he looked like a different person, appearing completely dejected and lacking the confident, elite demeanor he once had. Upon seeing me, Ethan's face lit up with the same joy as a child seeing candy. Lila? He stopped me and said urgently, "Lila, I really know I was wrong. It was Sophia who blinded me before, but now I see her true colors. I'll treat you well from now on. Please forgive me." I forcefully shook off his hand and said, "Ethan, I won't forgive you. It's not just because of Sophia. It's because I've completely lost all hope in you. Even without Sophia, there will be others who come along. Seeing you now makes me feel extremely uncomfortable. How could I possibly forgive you and live with you? Just leave. Don't ever show up again. Let's go our separate ways." Ethan's face turned pale, but he managed to say, "Lila, are you still blaming me for making you donate your kidney, which resulted in you losing your child? If I could make it up to you, would you forgive me?" I interrupted him. "Ethan, what makes you think I'd ever forgive you? The pain you've caused me is making me so angry." Ethan froze, looking pained and heartbroken, Before I could react, he pulled out a fruit knife from somewhere. He placed the knife in my hand and then stabbed himself in the waist. One stab after another, and soon his waist was bleeding profusely, with a large wound forming. I quickly put down the knife and pulled out my phone to call for emergency services. Ethan, what's wrong with you? He gave a bitter smile. Lila, I'll give you my kidneys, will you forgive me? I just looked at him and said, Ethan, no matter what you do, I will never forgive you. The next moment, his smile vanished. The ambulance arrived quickly, but Ethan had already lost too much blood and was unconscious. The doctors fought to save him for a long time, and finally he was out of danger. However, his injuries were severe. He not only lost both kidneys, but also sustained damage to other organs. Consequences that would accompany him for the rest of his life. At that time, what made me particularly happy was that the court's verdict had finally been issued. Since Ethan had cheated on me during our marriage, I not only successfully obtained the divorce certificate, but also received 3 million yuan and a villa as compensation. After that incident, I never saw Ethan again. Some time later, I heard that he had suffered a severe blow and his mental state had deteriorated. Ultimately, one day he jumped off the building in a state of confusion and died on the spot. Later, I sold the villa because I wanted to fulfill my childhood dream of traveling the world with my parents.